What's up, guys? It's Analyst. Welcome back to week 8. I hope my voice is okay enough. I've been a little sick this week, so I hope that doesn't throw too much off here. I'm trying to get my notes open at the same time. I'm in a bit of a rush, a little slow getting the video out this week, but like I said, I was sick and had some other stuff to deal with. But appreciate you being here nonetheless. Let's jump straight into it. First thing first, Thursday night game. We have Arizona Cardinals hosting the Green Bay Packers. There's no question about whether you're playing Kyler, obviously. When it comes to the running backs, though, I have some splits here between James Conner and Chase Edmonds over the last couple weeks. So over the last 3 weeks, James Conner has been averaging 12 carries a game, 2 targets. Well, hold on. Over the last 3 weeks, he has a total of 36 carries, 2 targets, 31 fantasy points, which is 10 per game. And he's playing 44.3% of the snaps. One of those games, Chase Edmonds did get hurt. Edmonds, on the flip side, 25 carries, 11 targets, 22 fantasy points, which is about 7.5 per game, and he's playing 55% of the snaps. So Chase Edmonds is still, I would say, the RB1 in this backfield. He did get hurt and play significantly less snaps, I believe, in that middle week, as I'm referring to. Over that period of time, James Conner, just 2 more opportunities than Chase Edmonds. Going into a game like tonight, I think it's going to be close. I don't think Arizona's going to win by 6 here. I take Green Bay in that aspect. They're going to keep it close, so I think this is definitely more of a Chase Edmonds game. James Conner, all he really needs is that goal line touch, and if they get a lead, they'll probably try to run it out with him, so he can be flexible, but flexible. Ooh, that's good. Flexible. He can be flexible, but I'm not betting on it. As far as these wide receivers go, Rondale Moore, he's only playing 50% of the snaps right now. And he's playing 90% of those snaps from the slot. Christian Kirk is averaging 88% of his snaps from the slot. So Christian Kirk is not only playing a full-time role, but he's also playing in the slot. So now we introduce a guy like Zach Ertz, who last week in his first ever week with the Cardinals played 49% of the entire offensive snaps. It kind of limits the offense to 11 personnel, right? Having the 1 tight end, 1 running back, and then 3 wide receivers, as opposed to using an offensive personnel like 10 personnel, which is when they play 4 wide receivers, which is what Cliff Kingsbury does like to do. And because of Zach Ertz being introduced and him looking to be an important part of this offense, I'm gonna fade Rondale Moore here. I just don't think Rondale Moore is gonna be on the field enough. He's gonna have to rely on big plays as we've seen in the past. Christian Kirk, again, is just kind of one of those things where he could have a big game. It could be AJ Green. I believe Jair Alexander is returning for this game, and if he does, it's only gonna hurt Hopkins, but Hopkins is gonna do his thing regardless. So I think Christian Kirk's a decent flex play. DeAndre Hopkins, per usual, you're starting him regardless of injury status, whatever. AJ Green, I'm not too big of a fan of. And Zach Ertz, it was pretty impressive. Zach Ertz was targeted 6 times, as I mentioned, 49% of the snaps. He's playable if you're in a tough spot. I still want to see, if he has 6-7 targets again and produces again, then he might have to be a weekly star. But a big reason he produced last week is because he took one of those targets for 40 yards for a score. So if he doesn't do that, we're probably not talking about him this week. So we'll see. On the flip side, the Packers, no Devontae Adams, no Allen Lazard, no MVS, which means this is going to be a better game for Aaron Jones, especially as a pass catcher. Randall Cobb seems to be the only wide receiver left, and Rob Tonyan might see a bigger role in this game. So let's start with the running backs here. And Aaron Rodgers, if you have him, you're starting him no matter what the odds. Running back wise, Aaron Jones, I think he's in a good spot. He's been a little inconsistent, but he's probably going to see an uptick in targets, and they're probably going to want to run the ball through him, screen passes, whatever. So I do like Aaron Jones in this game. Randall Cobb, he's been owning the slot. He's coming off a season high in terms of routes run, and obviously with their 3 starting wide receivers out, Randall Cobb would be my pick if you're looking to target any of these wide receivers. I'm not too much interested in Equanimeous St. Brown, Juwan Winfrey, who was just activated, Malik Taylor, who was just activated. Also, Amari Rodgers. I know he's going to be intriguing for some people, but he's barely seeing any playing time. When he is, it's been in the slot, and that's where Randall Cobb is. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Amari Rodgers in this game. I don't think they're really going to get him going here. So Randall Cobb, if needed. Robert Tonyan. Hey, I mean, with all three starting wide receivers out, Rob Tonyan is a good weapon to look for, especially in the red zone. I'd be surprised if Rob Tonyan doesn't come up with at least one touchdown tonight. So I do like Rob Tonyan as well. I didn't talk about AJ Dillon. He like a desperate option. He's been seeing an uptick in work lately, and who knows? Maybe they'll do some two running back sets, especially with other wide receivers out. So that could be some trickery there. All right, next game here. We have the Indianapolis Colts hosting the Tennessee Titans. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sick again. Carson Wentz has looked good lately, right? Carson Wentz has looked really good. So I don't know how much trust I really have in Carson Wentz, but if you're desperate for a streamer, I don't hate him. Running back wise, Jonathan Taylor is like the running back 2 right now. He's absolutely killing it. Or I believe, no, I'm sorry. I think he's top 5. I don't think he's actually number 2, but he has been killing it. He's got a great matchup against Tennessee. It's interesting to see Indianapolis actually favorites here, considering Tennessee just beat 2 tough teams, including the Chiefs, who, I mean, who knows how tough they are, but they just beat the Bills and the Chiefs back to back, and now they're 1.5 point underdogs against the Colts. I don't really understand that. Wide receiver wise, T.Y. Hilton, he was just upgraded to a limited practice, so he'll be back in the lineup for this game, which makes me a little weary of Michael Pittman, but regardless, Michael Pittman's a must start each week. Hilton, when he came in the week before, he actually out-targeted Michael Pittman in his debut against the Texans, but for some reason, T.Y. Hilton always does it against the Texans, so whatever. If you're really desperate here, Mo Alley Cox, he's averaged over 12 points per game in the last 4 weeks. He's got 2 or 3 touchdowns in that span. It seems like he's starting to separate himself as the tight end 1 in Indianapolis. Matchup is good. If you're in a tight spot, why not, right? Tennessee side. Ryan Tannehill going against Indianapolis. Their secondary is still very depleted. Running back wise, I mean, Derrick Henry, obviously. Do I really have to tell you what Derrick Henry does to fellow AFC South competitors? Because he owns them. We've got the dogs upstairs barking and going crazy. Wide receiver wise for Tennessee, AJ Brown, he's starting to pick it up. I told you guys, you just gotta buy him, just gotta hope. He seems to be healthy now, so he's getting a healthy target share. Him and I mentioned this Colts secondary is really banged up. Julio Jones currently not practicing due to an injury, so it could be all AJ Brown this weekend. And if that's the case, to the moon. No tight ends in Tennessee I'm looking at, so let's move down here. Buffalo Bills hosting the Miami Dolphins. Bills 14-point favorites. I believe the last time they played it was Jacoby Brissett, and the Dolphins scored a whopping 0 points. I do think it's going to be different this time around. So let's talk about the Bills real quick. So Josh Allen, there's not really much of a reason to talk about him. Of course, they're starting Josh Allen. Running back wise, Zach Moss has led all Buffalo running backs in snaps every week since week 3. It's a great matchup against Miami. They're ranked 27th at defending against running backs. So they are bottom of the barrel defending against running backs. Moss has had at least 12 opportunities every single week since week 3. So ever since he stepped into that starter role, he's had at least 12 opportunities, despite having a bad game last time he played. I still do like Zach Moss here. Another guy I do like is Emmanuel Sanders. So Emmanuel Sanders, if you haven't realized already, he has solidified himself as the wide receiver 2. And he could see even more work, especially by work I mean targets, with Dawson Knox still out. According to my buddy Faraz at Upper Hand Fantasy, Miami is allowing the most fantasy points to perimeter wide receivers, which is wide receivers playing on the outside, including Emmanuel Sanders, over the last 4 weeks. So, yeah, I think Sanders is a fine start this week. To Tua, although he was the overall quarterback one, and by the way, I'm not interested in Tommy Sweeney or anything like that, so don't worry about that. So Tua was the overall QB1, but this is a much tougher matchup in terms of the running backs. And yeah, in that case, I'm not looking to stream Tua or anything. Running back wise, Malcolm Brown now on IR, which means he's going to miss the next 3 games. The work is going to be split between Myles Gaskin and Salvon Ahmed. Gaskin last week is season high 19 touches. This game script is going to This game script will favor heavy passing. Gaskin's running way more routes than Salvon Ahmed, so that is his role, especially with Malcolm Brown out of the picture. As far as the wide receivers go, so Gaskin, if you're desperate in PPR, I'm okay with it. But, my expectations are not anything close to last week. Jalen Waddle operating as the team's wide receiver 1 with Devontae Parker and Will Fuller dealing with injuries. Latest report, Will Fuller will not be playing this week at least. And Devontae Parker, no guarantee he plays this week. So, it looks like it could be all Waddle again. And he's got a tough matchup against Taron Johnson, who's been the Bills' best corner this year in terms of coverage. So, Taron Johnson plays the nickel corner, so it's going to be a tough matchup. So this might be a Mike Gesicki game. This might be a heavy target Mike Gesicki, Myles Gaskin game. I think no matter what, Waddle's going to get his in a game where they're obviously going to need to pass, as you can tell by the spread. So, yeah, let's look at Detroit at home hosting Philadelphia. So looking at Detroit, there's not really much to go over. I mean, DeAndre Swift right now is the overall running back 2. So that's what I was thinking. Him and Jonathan Taylor is getting messed up. So Swift, you're starting up. And these wide receivers, when Darius Slay, revenge game by the way, when Darius Slay has actually shadowed wide receivers, he's not allowed more than I think a total of 60 yards, and he's allowed 0 touchdowns. So Darius Slay, when shadowing, has been great. I don't trust any of these Detroit wide receivers, so helps, and I can just stay away from them anyway. TJ Hawkinson in back-to-back weeks, he's had a 24% target share or higher, and Eagles are 27th defending against tight ends. So Hawkinson's looking to be in a really good spot this week. As far as the Eagles go, Jalen Hurts still has yet to have a game under 20 points. He gets it done. Miles Sanders likely out this week, which means this is going to be the Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott show. So Kenny Gainwell played 51% of the offensive snaps last week. He had 8 targets in that game as well. Boston Scott got the rushing TD, but prior to Miles Sanders getting injured throughout the entire season, Boston Scott has only played 4 total snaps in 6 weeks. 4 snaps total. And that was all in the same week. So, Boston Scott, he might play a complimentary role. If anything, he might get more so of the goal line work, maybe a little more early down. But Kenny Gainwell is the guy to own. And I do like him a lot this week against Detroit, who's been one of the worst defenses against running backs. Lions going to keep this game competitive. As much as we think Philadelphia is going to steamroll them, I don't think a 3.5 point favorite, really speaks to that. Devontae Smith is coming off a game where he had a 26.5% target share. The Lions defense secondary, more specifically, is very depleted. And even if they weren't depleted, they're not great. So I think Devontae Smith can actually have a good game here. Also notable, in his first game without Zach Ertz, and after missing the week before, Dallas Goedert matched his season high in targets. He hit a season high in yards and played a season high amount of snaps, which is really interesting because it's 20% higher than his next, about 20% higher. So, Zach Ertz played 93% of the offensive snaps last week. Before that, the highest he's played was 74. So Dallas Goedert is a full-time player. He is getting targeted more. I think he can definitely have a great game here. So if you're playing DFS or whatever it is, I do like Dallas Goedert a lot. All right, so we have the New York Jets hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. I was doing a lot of research for this. So, of course, I had to do a full breakdown on Mike White because he is going to be starting this week. Joe Flacco will not be in until next week. Tevin Coleman at this point is unlikely to play, so I just want to get that out of the way. He didn't practice on Thursday, so this will likely be split between Ty Johnson and Michael Carter. Now, the interesting thing about Mike White is that this is kind of where his targets went. So when Mike White took over, Corey Davis had 6 targets, Elijah Moore had 4 targets, and Jamison Crowder had 4. So he favors Corey Davis a little bit, and it's not a bad matchup for Corey Davis, so I'm okay with starting him if you're really, really desperate. Tight end wise, I think 2 combined targets for those guys, and Keelan Cole and Denzel Mims also combined for 4, so just kind of game flow how it went. The interesting part, Michael Carter, with just Mike White, not with Zach Wilson, had 9 targets. He had a 28% target share, which makes sense. Mike White has never started an NFL game. They want him to be conservative. There's no other better way to be conservative than to throw to the running back. So Michael Carter, 9 targets. Ty Johnson, who was in and out of this game with injuries, 5 targets. The two of them combined for 43.7% of the offensive targets. So I like Michael Carter a lot this week. Cincinnati isn't amazing against running backs, and they are going to be playing from behind, so I think this is going to be a lot of garbage time, a lot of... I wouldn't be surprised to see if Michael Carter ends up with 5 or more targets. Or 5 or more catches. I'd be surprised if he didn't have at least that. On the flip side, the Jets are the worst defense in the entire league when it comes to defending running backs. They got Joe Mixon, who's been a little hot, been a little cold. He's been on and off. He could have a big game here, and he could be benched early if they really get up that much, and then it could be the Samaje Perine show. Who knows? Other than that, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are must starts. It seems like the Bengals really got ahead of the Ravens last week, and even so, T. Higgins had a 39.5% target share, and Jamar Chase also had 10 targets on the day. So T. Higgins, buy low on him right now if you can. It seems like him and Chase are leading this wide receiver core. CJ Uzomah, yes, he has high upside. He did everything he did last week on just 3 targets, so I'm not overly confident on CJ Uzomah. We're going to try to run through some of these games here just so I can get this YouTube video out. Chicago Bears hosting San Francisco 49ers. Justin Fields, just not startable at this point. Khalil Herbert, though, he's a workhorse. Over 100 yards against supposedly the best run defense in the entire league. He had 23 touches last week compared to Damian Williams' 4. He also played 77% of the offensive snaps. So, Khalil Herbert right now, he is just not someone that you can sit. He is getting the job done. Given Damian Williams was activated literally the day before the game, so this game flow can be a little different, but Khalil Herbert has earned the right to be the guy until David Montgomery gets back. Honestly, for the Bears, I want to say I like Allen Robinson this week. I want to say that I like Darnell Mooney in this week, but I don't. This is just not a situation I can buy into until this offense shows some life. So if Justin Fields has a game where he throws the ball 40 times, Allen Robinson gets he gets like 15 points, Darnell Mooney gets over 10, then I'll be like, okay, I'm starting to buy into a little bit. I want to see this become a trend, and then I'll be able to start these guys. But as of right now, not starting Mooney, not starting Robinson. If you need to start someone, I guess Mooney, because he has been more productive with Fields. But again, I'm going to err on the side of caution and not start any of these guys. On the flip side for San Francisco, Jimmy Garoppolo still starting, I guess, as Shanahan says. I guess Jimmy G is starting. Looks like he's just waiting for Trey Lance to get healthy so he can put him back in the starting position. If they do lose to Chicago here, don't be surprised if Trey Lance is the guy for the rest of the year. And I think that's really how it's going to go. Because there's no way, like, Justin Fields, as bad as he's doing, should be the starter, and then, like, Trey Lance won't. So I just don't understand that. So Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm not starting here. Running back-wise, for San Francisco, Elijah Mitchell is still owning this backfield. He's playing 66% of the offensive snaps, had 18 carries, no targets. JaMychal Hasty is operating as their third down running back, their pass catching running back. So Elijah Mitchell kind of confined to this early down, carry role. He's capable as a pass catcher, but it seems like Elijah Mitchell is their ball carrier. So, I mean, this is a decent matchup for him. They're likely going to be up in this game, so I think Elijah Mitchell can have a good game here. Wide receiver wise, the only wide receiver you're starting is Deebo Samuel, and without George Kittle, he is the only person I am starting. Okay, not really too much else to go on here. Got Pittsburgh and Cleveland. As far as Cleveland goes, Nick Chubb, he's back. Baker Mayfield currently practicing in full. Doesn't mean I'm starting Baker Mayfield because I just never feel comfortable with that. But Nick Chubb is likely going to be playing in this game. So Nick Chubb is playing, you're starting him, especially without Kareem Hunt in the lineup. Wide receiver wise, Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry both likely going to play this week. Great. I don't trust either. I want to see something be consistent here. It's so much easier to stay away from that. As for the Steelers, Big Ben, it's not a bad matchup for him, but again, he hasn't really done anything to deserve a spot on your team. Najee Harris, he's going to do his thing. Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, both, like both these guys this week. What's really interesting here is that with Juju out, Eric Ebron and Pat Freiermuth combined for 105% of the offensive snaps, meaning they're using a lot of two tight end sets. It's not even including Zach Gentry, who is floating around 40%. So they're starting to use a lot more two tight end sets in Pittsburgh, which means kind of takes away the slot, and that makes sense without Juju there. So Pat Freiermuth, if he starts to get more involved soon, you know why. Okay, we have Atlanta hosting Carolina. Let's start with Carolina here. So Sam Darnold, coming off an atrocious game, he was benched. This should be a good matchup, but I'm just not trusting Sam Darnold right now. As for Chuba, Christian McCaffrey is still on IR, and Atlanta is 26th at defending against running backs. So this is a good game for Chuba Hubbard to continue. DJ Moore still has a crazy high target share. Whether Sam Darnold can get him the ball or not, it's still yet to be seen. But I do like DJ Moore this week. I don't like Robbie. I don't like anyone else. As for Atlanta, Matt Ryan, he's a fine streamer if needed. I'm not sure if this is the case, but I think Stephon Gilmore will be playing in this game. So we'll have to see if that's true, but I believe Stephon Gilmore will be playing. As for Atlanta, I know this is a Mike Davis revenge game, right, against Carolina, but you just can't start him, right? The snaps are there. He's playing 60% of the snaps, but Cordero Patterson had 19 opportunities compared to Davis, who had just 4. So it's just not possible to start Mike Davis when he's only getting 4 touches in a game, and they're all carries too. I know Calvin Ridley's not performing up to par, but he's still a weekly start until proven otherwise. If it's Stephon Gilmore, it's going to make things a little bit tougher depending on how healthy Gilmore is. But Ridley's still finding a way to get it done, at least get you through the week. So no reason to sit him per se. Kyle Pitts, he's doing his thing, man. Kyle Pitts is getting it done. Over 100 yards last week. Yeah, he looks fantastic. And I think this is a fantastic matchup as well. So fire up Kyle Pitts. Fire up Kyle Pitts. So next game we have here is the Houston Texans hosting the Los Angeles Rams. Let's get the Texans out of the way first. Let's get that out of the way because there's only 2 people I want to talk about in the Texans. Tyrod Taylor probably playing this week. Cool, doesn't make a difference to me. No tight ends I want to talk about. There is a running back for the Texans I want to talk about. That's David Johnson. So David Johnson, now with Mark Ingram out of the picture, he was just traded back to the Saints this week. David Johnson's coming off a game where he had a season-high 13 opportunities. Mark Ingram, when he was with the Texans, he was averaging 14 touches a game. Philip Lindsay and Rex Burkhead have failed to really play. They're both averaging, I believe, under 15% of the offensive snaps. So if David Johnson does become a workhorse here, I mean, there's opportunity for him to do enough to get you through the week. So if you need a desperate play, I mean, Brandon Cooks is going to be seeing Jalen Ramsey. They're 14.5-point underdogs. And the Rams have also quietly been bottom half in the league against defending running backs. They're 19th at defending against running backs. So if you're desperate for a running back play, David Johnson might be your guy, especially in PPR. He had 6 targets last week, 5 the week before. There's going to be some garbage time with Tyrod Taylor where he could get it done. So I don't hate David Johnson if you're in a tight spot. Brandon Cooks, I mentioned him a little bit. He's going to be seeing Jalen Ramsey. He's still seeing the targets, but if you can sit him, I probably would. Like, I would sit him for Emmanuel Sanders this week. That's just kind of my level of not liking Brandon Cooks. I could be wrong, especially with Tyrod Taylor being there, but I really don't want to take the chance. I would still start him over guys like Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. That's going to cover the Texans because there's no one else I want to talk about there. But as for the Rams, Matt Stafford, Darrell Henderson, regardless of a bad week, he's a must start. Cooper Kupp, a must start. Good news for Woods and Van Jefferson, more so for Van Jefferson. According to Andrew Arison of Pro Football Focus, the Texans are allowing the highest rate of open deep targets on defense, meaning that they're leaving guys wide open the more than anybody else in the entire league. Van Jefferson, he specializes on those long catches. Van Jefferson out targeted Woods last week, and he had his highest route participation of the season last week with 93%. So, I think Van Jefferson could be in a little bit of a blow up spot here, and that also bodes well for Robert Woods. Not that they're great against covering the slot, but this is a game where if Matt Stafford wants to air it out, he's going to have guys open. And, it kind of benefits a guy like Tyler Higbee, too. Now I got some scattered notes here. Seattle Seahawks hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Geno Smith, obviously, right now we're not comfortable with what Geno Smith is doing. Running back-wise, Alex Collins, I'd call him a desperate start. He's still getting the biggest bulk of the carries. Rashad Penny did come in and do, I think, a lot more than what anybody was expecting. So that does, change Alex Collins from a great start to like a desperate start. I mean, I'm trying to pull it up here. So Alex Collins played 39% of the snaps, and Rashad Penny played 36%. So Penny took a lot more than a lot of people thought, but I do think Alex Collins is still a desperate start in this game. Wide receiver-wise, DK Metcalf, you're starting him. Tyler Lockett, look, the matchup is great, but, this dude just can't produce. So I don't blame you if you want to put someone like Emmanuel Sanders over him. I really don't blame you at all. But, if you have Tyler Lockett, you're probably not sitting him. Tight end-wise, Gerald Everett, I'm not interested in. As far as Jacksonville goes, I think Jacksonville actually has a chance to win this game outright. I think they're coming off a bye week. They had a strong game before the bye week. Trevor Lawrence has looked better and better each of the last couple weeks he's played. Seattle's defense is awful. Running back-wise, if James Robinson doesn't finish as a top 5 running back this week, I will be utterly surprised. Utterly surprised. Seattle is one of the worst defenses against running backs. Robinson has been, I think he's been like a top 3 wide receiver in the last 3 games he's played. He's been ridiculous. So James Robinson, 100% starting him. Marvin Jones, I'm okay starting him. LaVisca, I'm not. I'm still concerned about the target share he's getting. But hey, maybe they come out of the bye and they're like, hey, we have LaVisca Chenault. Maybe we'll start using him. Who knows? Unless that happens, I'm not comfortable with it. And I'm, Dan Arnold, sure, if you're desperate. LA Chargers hosting the New England Patriots. Herbert, he struggled. Last time he played, he struggled against the Ravens. He couldn't move the ball, but I think they're going to have a much easier time moving the ball here, especially without Stephon Gilmore and then Patriots secondary. Last year, the Patriots walloped the Chargers 45-0, so maybe they still have that kryptonite, and I'm sure they're going to watch a lot of the film from that Ravens game and see what they could do against the Chargers here. I feel like I'm about to sneeze. I hate this. As for the Chargers, Austin Eckler, he's still running back 1. You're playing him no matter what. Mike Williams, I don't like the matchup for Mike Williams on the outside. He's probably going to see a lot of J.C. Jackson. Keenan Allen kind of flirts with playing in the slot and playing outside. Jonathan Jones, the Patriots slot corner, he's currently out. He's dealing with an injury. I think it was a season-ending injury. So the Patriots have a really bad weak spot in the middle of the field right now. I think Keenan Allen's going to have a great game. Not that Mike Williams can't, because, but I think Mike Williams is going to see a lot of safety help. The Patriots are smart. And when you think about what the Patriots do is they take away your best weapon. I think the best weapon for the Chargers lately has been Mike Williams. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Williams had a dud here, but I'm not going to bet on that because he is still Mike Williams. It's still Justin Herbert. But I do like Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler more. Jared Cook if you're desperate. New England Patriots, I don't think this is a terrible game to stream Mac Jones. I think there's much better streamers available on waivers. Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, maybe even Ryan Tannehill. But, yeah, I think there's better streamers available. But if you're really in a tough spot, I don't hate Mac Jones here. Damian Harris, the overall running back 12 over the last 3 weeks. Chargers right now are 28th against running backs. So, yeah, that's not a bad game to use Damian Harris while he's still on a high note. Jacoby Myers, he's still leading the team in target share each week. He hasn't gotten his touchdown yet. Maybe it'll be this game, but I'm starting Jacoby Myers here. This is a game where they're going to need to pass it. 50-point total. I like Jacoby Myers. Hunter Henry revenge game here. Not enough people talking about that. Jonnu Smith got hurt early in the week. He is practicing, so it looks like Jonnu is going to play. But I wouldn't be surprised if Hunter Henry had himself a game today. Not today, but on Sunday. So I don't hate Hunter Henry as well. Denver Broncos hosting the Washington football team. Both these defenses are really depleted. But Denver especially is depleted in the linebacker group. They had to trade for Micah Kiser earlier in the week. So I think that kind of makes Antonio Gibson startable. I mean, you saw what Dearness Johnson did to them last week. So I do like Antonio Gibson, regardless of whatever multiple injuries he's dealing with. Wide receiver wise, Terry, I'm not sure what his status is. He's always also dealing with some sort of injury, but you're starting up Terry. Tight end wise, Ricky Seals-Jones, he's continuing to be that low end running back one, so I'm comfortable starting Ricky Seals-Jones as well. On the flip side, for Denver, Teddy Bridgewater, he's a great streamer this week as well. Washington is, like I said, their defense is terrible. Running back wise, Javonte Williams is slowly creeping ahead of Melvin Gordon. Whether the snaps show that or not, Williams is being targeted a lot. He's explosive, so I like Javonte Williams as a weekly flex play. Wide receiver wise, Cortland Sutton, start him. Jerry Jeudy, look, I know he's coming off IR, but Jerry Jeudy had 7 targets on 47% of the snaps in week 1. Him and Teddy Bridgewater were talked up the entire offseason of just having a fantastic connection. And with playing less than half the game, Jerry Jeudy already had 7 targets. So, and again, this is a great matchup. I like Jerry Jeudy in this game, even though he's coming off IR. Noah Fant, like him as well. You have... one second, guys. Sorry about that. So we have the New Orleans Saints hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. So Tom Brady doing his thing. You're not setting him. Leonard Fournette, it's a really tough matchup. But, he's getting the work. He's getting the targets. He's going to produce no matter what. So Leonard Fournette, he's a weekly must start. Wide receiver-wise, Mike Evans does not have a great track record against Marshawn Lattimore. But I think, especially with Antonio Brown out, he can still do enough to get the job done. So Mike Evans, I would probably downgrade him just a bit, but I'm still starting him. Chris Godwin, I think he had 11 targets last week. He led this team, so I love Chris Godwin this week a ton. Rob Gronkowski, he's going to be coming back this week off injury, so I like Gronk here too. As far as the Saints go, I think Alvin Kamara is going to continue to eat. Marquez Callaway, he had 20% target share last week. Him and Kamara combined for over 50% of the targets. This is a game where Jameis is going to have to throw it against his former team. So if you need a tight start, I think Marquez Callaway is your guy. Secondary is still very depleted for Tampa Bay. What's also interesting is I really don't trust anyone else in New Orleans. I mean, nobody else was even close to Callaway. I mean, Callaway had a 20% target share. Kamara, as I said, had like a 31% target share. And next closest was 8%. So this offense right now is running through Callaway, running through Kamara. I think this is a great matchup for both these guys. And yeah, I'm not looking to start Traquan Smith, Kenny Stills, or Adam Troutman or anyone like that. Dallas and Minnesota, 55-point total. This is, I don't really have any notes on this one because this is just a start everyone type deal, right? This is going to be a shootout. Minnesota has put themselves in a ton of shootouts already this week. Both teams coming off a bye. Start Dak, start Zeke, start CeeDee Lamb, start Amari Cooper. If you're desperate, hey, start Michael Gallup. He's coming off IR. Dalton Schultz, he's going to do his thing. Start him. As far as Minnesota goes, you're starting Kirk as a streamer if needed. You can start Justin Jefferson. You're going to start Adam Thielen. Dalvin Cook's going to do his thing. So, yeah, there's not really too many questions with this game here. And we're going to end it here with our last game, which is Kansas City Chiefs hosting the New York Giants, regardless of the Chiefs' struggle. And I believe both these teams have a similar record. Chiefs are 10-point favorites in this game. I do love Daniel Jones here as a streamer. There's a chance he could have all of Galladay, Tony, Shepard, and Barkley back for this week. But it's yet to be seen. And even if he doesn't, I think the Chiefs' defense is bad enough to where Daniel Jones can get the job done running the ball or whatever he needs to do. So I do like Daniel Jones a lot. He's my number one streamer this week. Whether it's Saquon Barkley or whether it's Devontae Booker, whoever's starting, I'm starting them. Wide receiver wise, if Tony's playing, I think he's definitely startable. Kadarius Toney, he was targeted. I talked about this last week. He was targeted 3 times on just 6 snaps last time he played with Daniel Jones. And that was with Sterling Shepard on the field too. I don't think Kenny Galladay really moves the needle for me all that much. So yeah, if Kadarius Toney is playing, I'm starting him. But because it's a Monday game, I'm going to be extremely cautious with Sterling Shepard and Kadarius Toney and Kenny Galladay in my lineups. I want to be wary and make sure they're actually starting, because the last thing you need is for them to be a surprise inactive on Monday, and then you're screwed. So, yeah. Kansas City, look, I know they're struggling, but you're starting Patrick Mahomes, you're starting Tyreek Hill, you're starting Travis Kelce, and Darrell Williams, he's going to do his thing. Giants are pretty crap against the run, so my throat's starting to give out here. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next week, hopefully when I'm not sick, for week 9. Peace.